Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call to order this Sacramento Regional Transit Board meeting for Monday, January 23rd, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Budge?
Here.
Director Hansen?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hume?
Here.
Director Jennings will be a little late. Director Kennedy?
Here.
Director Miller?
Here.
Director Natoli? Director Chenier? Director Cerna?
Here.
Chair Morin.
Here.
With
And
that, we have a quorum at 100 votes. This
Thank you.
meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, and will be streamed live on RT's website. Tonight's meeting will air on Wednesday, January 25th at 6 p.m. and replayed on Thursday, January 26th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed caption. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones. Thank you.
thank you, Cindy. With that, would everyone please rise and join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, first item, please.
Public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda.
Okay, we do have a few requests to speak on this, so we'll start with Jeffrey Tardigia. Jeffrey, and then after Jeffrey is Mike Barnbaum.
Andy, board members, I thank you for the 3 minutes. You have been the quiet one of the board, so I'm hoping that you are going to be the most effective member on this board of making changes and correcting things for the riders. Right now you have a situation down there at Iron Point for Folsom. I'm hoping that better input, and maybe since you have a Harrison as a other revenue center, that something in the future might be considered. 65th Street, you've got a huge problem right there that needs to be dealt with. 9914 doesn't work. You've removed all of the indication of anything for giving anybody a route indication or times on there. You just pulled them all out. And that is another one of our entry points that needs to be addressed. I-80. Likewise, there is still that continual problem with the elevators and that issue and what needs to happen through that situation. Now we'll go to unintentional consequences. You have now decided to, I will say someone has decided to eliminate the bus book. I really wish some more public input had been provided, and that on your bus book that you propose suspending because of the cost and re-examining, because another unintentional consequence will be without people having a bus book, you're probably going to see a run on your various paper schedules. I want to congratulate, though, that after the last board meeting where the first storm hit and the light rail went down and there was no communication, this last Saturday, with the fact that 20,000 people showed up on, Capitol Boulevard, that there was some alert messages that alerted you to, and you responded. What Connect Card provides you with is that bit of demand information, and you realized that you had a whole lot more people that needed to be mobilely moved around. There's probably a half a dozen others, but I will also say that there's still more work that needs to be done. And yes, standardly we'll hear, hey, we don't have the money to do it. And yet today you're going forward with the fact that you will later on propose a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that you are going to be doing some $64 million spending because you need more buses. There's other things, but we'll leave it alone. I think that's a good start and say, hey, enough projects for you. See what you can do. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll give that some quiet attention. So next is Mike. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you with business from the floor. Yes, as the last speaker alluded to, there will be an item coming up which mentions that the next meeting is February 27th. But since that's a little over a month from now, there's a lot going to be going on between now and then, and we wanted to let you know just some of the meetings and workshops of relevance between now and then relating to transportation. Tomorrow on Capitol Corridor train number 547, which departs Sacramento at 5:40 in the afternoon, early evening, Capitol Corridor Joint Powers Authority staff will be providing a business plan workshop up to Richmond from Sacramento. So if you want to go to a workshop and during the evening hours, tomorrow is an excellent opportunity to do that. The Capitol Corridor will then take the comments and all the feedback, both online and at the workshops, and present it to their board at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, February 15th, in the City of Sassoon City Council chambers, which is the first meeting of the calendar year for that group. So heads up to anyone who is interested in being appointed when you get to the item about appointment of board members to various other boards and commissions. On Friday at 12:30 in the afternoon at the San Joaquin Council of Governments Board Chambers is the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, and that is their first calendar meeting of the year. Among many major business items they're going to be discussing is what they now refer to as morning express service. There is a Survey Monkey out, and they've been posting lots on their Twitter and Facebook pages to take a survey for those that live in the Central Valley that want a run getting to Sacramento by or before 8 o'clock in the morning during the week. So that's going to be a busy topic throughout the year. They're hoping to implement that change in 11 and a half months from now, early January. And last but not least, that we know of, the SACOG Transit Coordinating Committee will meet on February 15th, same day as the Capitol Corridor Board. That will be at 9 a.m. in the SACOG offices.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks always for the updates there, Mike. Next on business from the floor is Coco Cocozella. Good evening, Coco.
Hey. I apologize for my lateness. Thanks for letting me
It's
get
okay, we got
in.
you. Got here in time.
I just sold my car about 2 months ago, so I'm walking my talk. I'm doing public transportation only. I'm from New York, so I'm used to relying on that.
Welcome to Sacramento.
Thank you. Luckily, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is my first RT meeting, so maybe I have the gall to come up and make a couple suggestions. I'm really happy about having public transportation. So I'm walking, I'm taking the bus, I'm taking the light rail, and occasional Ubers. I hope to never have to rely on Ubers in the future. It would be great. So couple of, if I were to distill my suggestions down to two major, one is 24-hour access, and the other is at least every half-hour access. Those are my two biggies. So, and I'm here to listen and learn and participate. And if anybody needs me on a committee, I'm here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for showing up today, Coco. Okay, that concludes speakers on business from the floor on items not on the agenda.
Next is the consent calendar, items 1 through 7, noting that you have a few speakers on item 7.
Okay, so before I entertain any motions, we'll go ahead and proceed with commentary on the item. So this is item 7. I have a couple of requests to speak. Jeffrey Tartagia on consent item 7, and Russell Rawlings. And after Russell is Mike Barnbaum. Great, thank you.
I'll read the item while Jeffrey's making his way. Motion changing the start time of the next regularly scheduled meeting on February 27th, 2017 from 5:30 PM to 9 o'clock AM, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Board, realizing this change and realizing this is the last time public comment gets to be put in here, I'm suggesting that with this change and with the purpose of it, you need to get your communications out to its purpose and explaining, just because on either paper it's not clear that you want 3 or 4 hours, and to its purpose of planning going on there. And I'm suggesting that sandwich boards at certain locations, if you're wanting public input, be put out there, because with the change, this is the time to get public input. Last year you had over 700 comments, and the question is what you're doing with them and what you're planning this year, the future. And yes, Henry, it's that time period where, golly gee, I'm looking forward to hearing what was reviewed, what's worked, and some of the things that are too complicated that don't happen for either money or the other reasons. That's what I'm doing.
Thanks, Jeffrey. We'll work on the outreach there. Russell, and can we get a hand for some amplification for Russell there? Good evening, Russell.
Good evening, members of the board. It's nice to see some new kind of shuffling around up there. I think maybe this means that we'll get a few maybe different kind of conversation going. I am concerned though about item number 7, simply because it feels like the change in time, while obviously we were talking about a little over a month from now, we're talking about a decision that's being made right now. And I think with something so important, the 9 a.m. time on a Monday is extremely difficult for the public to engage. I would instead encourage the board to maybe look at checking with the public and seeing if there is a time that's more amenable, or maybe even breaking this the idea up into a different format where it's more digestible for communities to participate. Because I'm afraid that you're going to spend 3 hours and you're going to get no one. So I'm very concerned that the chosen time is not going to produce the kind of feedback that you're looking for. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. And Mike.
Thank you. We want to kind of build upon Russell's comment in that one of the concerns about 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, say as opposed to maybe doing a joint meeting together, say with the San Joaquin JPA, if you were to include them in part of your group and their group together, if they chose Sacramento as their location of their next meeting, as just one idea, is that a lot of folks are committed to school, work, and their daytime obligations, especially if it's to work where they get their source of income, that we don't know if there will be a large amount of public participation at 9 in the morning compared to 5:30 in the afternoon. To that end, we would like the board to think about that before the vote takes place, and perhaps as a suggestion to a point made earlier, if you were to meet with another board in your strategic plan workshop, say if it was the San Joaquin JPA, just to put on the record, we know that that group is a Friday group, not a Monday group. They have met in Sacramento before, typically at the historic Sacramento City Hall, the one that faces I Street, and their meetings are typically around the schedules of their trains. If that's the case, and we've talked to their staff and will further do so later in the week, would perhaps having a meeting, say from noon to 4, in conjunction with their agenda as well, so it'd be more like a 2x2 instead of just a single body meeting, might be of help, so the public who does attend could understand what both groups are about and how the two groups work together on common issues for the good of both entities. So just to put that thought out there.
Okay.
But hopefully your next meeting would be at 5:30. But we understand that there might be a low attendance if it's very early in the morning mainly because of people's school, work, and income obligations. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And I suppose just for Mike's sake and the other speakers, just remind us the intention of the 9 a.m. start time. And I'll add that it's also tough for a number of us on the board as well. We all have jobs and positions, but I know Cindy worked very hard to line this up, which is very difficult to get this many folks in one place at one time. So if you just want to just address the intention of the timing on that, Henry.
Well, I can address the time, or RT staff and the board, as Henry has explained to the board, I believe, in briefings that you've had, want to hold a strategic workshop. And the workshop will take about 3 hours. So we've scheduled 9 to 12. And this is a common time after polling the board on numerous occasions to find a time that would work within your schedules, because as you mentioned, you definitely have various schedules and meetings that you attend. So this was the reason why we chose the 9 a.m. is because everyone can attend at that time.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so with that, any board member questions in addition to that on item 7 there? Okay.
Move approval of the consent calendar items 1 through 7.
Okay, moved by Director Budge, second by Director Jennings. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion passes at 100 votes. Next item is the general manager's report.
You know, before we get to the general manager report, I do just want to welcome, as already has been recognized, a new board member up here, and just welcome Patrick Kennedy, Sacramento County Board of Supervisor, and welcome Patrick, and look forward to many, many decades of service up here, just like Don.
Well, staff welcome Supervisor Patrick too. We're very excited about joining us. Also, good evening, Chair Maureen, members of the board, and the public. First, I would like to update our RT Holiday Bus charitable contribution. During the holiday season, RT operates its popular holiday bus on various routes throughout the Sacramento region, offering the gift of a free ride as a thank you to riders and promote goodwill. In the spirit of giving, RT offered passengers the opportunity to place a cash donation in the fare box to benefit Shriners Hospitals for Children of Northern California from December 1st, 2016 through January 2nd, 2017. In total, RT collected $1,728.08 on the holiday bus this year. In the meantime, RT employee, our Vice President of Marketing and Communication, Deborah Solanis, personally is making another $271.92 to make the donation a whole number of $2,000. So at this time, I want to bring Deborah and our representatives from Shriners Hospital, Aaron Anderson and Joe Ramos, to the podium.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Ramos. I'm the events coordinator for Shriners Hospitals for Children Northern California. We see a lot of you on TV and in the news often, so it is a pleasure to, yes, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be in your presence today for us to personally say thank you so much, not only to you as our board of directors here for Regional Transit, but to our writers, which include patients from our hospital, staff at our hospital, for their generosity, for the opportunity to make an impact at our hospital. As many of you, I'm assuming, know, all of the services at our hospital are provided to families regardless of their family's ability to pay. That means we don't want them to have to worry about paying medical bills and the treatment that their children are going to receive. This donation, to all of you as well, makes an impact. It truly does, whether it's 1 cent or $2,000. We are incredibly grateful, and the work that you are doing, I can tell you personally, it's reinforcing our incredible mission, and we are, again, very appreciative for the opportunity. So thank you so much. Happy belated, happy holidays. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add, I'm Alan Anderson, Director of Development. We like to say that the gifts that come to us really come back to the community. In a way, it's very similar to what you guys accomplished with transit. You're facilitating the community, accomplishing what they need to in their daily lives, whether it's personal or through work. Everything that we get goes back to the community in the form of healthy and happy kids. So thank you for giving back to the community, and we appreciate it was the community supporting us as well. So thank you very much.
Next, we would like to recognize 2 outstanding professionals, Connie Garcia Weinhardt, our Senior Community and Government Affairs Officer, and Brent Berniger, our Acting Chief Financial Officer, who laid tireless and effective work in the last 8 months to secure a critical funding Transportation Congestion Relief Program Fund, TCRP fund, from the state to prepay part of the revenue bond principals and reduce the future annual debt payments from $5.5 million annually to $3.6 million starting from fiscal year 2000 after 2019. Therefore, to partially relieve RT's long-term operating deficit and help to restore RT's financial house in order. Allow me to elaborate this a little bit. In today's agenda item 12, you will notice staff will ask the board to approve the Fairbox revenue bonds prepayment resolution by using state TCRP fund, a one-time close to $50 million cap reimbursement to RT for the light rail extension project cost. With this resolution, RT will have enough fund to completely pay for $11 million debt service payments in next 2 fiscal years and reduced annual bond debt payment from $5.5 million to $3.6 million for the remaining 23 years after fiscal year 2019. This is crucial to RT because the annual debt service has to be paid by RT's operating fund, which we simply do not have. In the last 5 years, we paid this debt service by using Blue Line Extension Project Fund and RT's operating reserve, which both are neither feasible nor available anymore. Without this fund, RT will immediately face a $5.5 million operating deficit annually from now on in next 25 years, and which may simply means we have to make some tough and painful decisions among unacceptable choices. For any well-managed organizations, the number 1 focus is always to maintain a sustainable financial future by eliminating any potential long-term operating deficit. This is what we try to do tonight by restructuring our bond, and this is what we are determined to do in the next 2 years. With this game-changing funding, RT will be able to significantly reduce the operating deficit in next 25 years and equal importantly, allow us to a new way in next 2 years, a breakthrough to implement dozens of deep reform initiatives to run RT in a more efficient and effective way, therefore to further reduce or hopefully eliminate the remaining $3.6 million future operating deficit after fiscal year 2019 without being forced to make some tough and unacceptable service cut or staff layoff, those type of unacceptable choices. In RT's February 27th Board Strategic Planning Work Session, we will elaborate our comprehensive and bold strategies on how to eliminate this $3.6 million bond payment-related shortage and other potential operating deficit in details. In May 2016, after state legislation approved RT's TCRP fund, after extensive and effective lobbying by currently RT's state lobbyist Mark Watts, along with RT supporters in both state legislative chambers, RT started a very effective but tough and difficult journey to secure this fund. First, even though the state legislation approved this funding to RT, other state transit agencies launched an aggressive campaign to redirect this funding to other ongoing and underfunded transit projects throughout the state, instead of reimbursing RT for the project already completed. There were several times State Transportation Commission, which has the authority to reallocate this funding, was at a breaking point to reduce or pull the funding away from RT due to the strong pressure from other transit agencies such as LA Metro and others. Currently, Mark and RT team worked diligently to develop numerous strategies and successfully secured this funding from being taken away or reduced. In the meantime, to get this fund to RT's accounts ASAP as soon as possible, our financial team, led by Brand, has worked tirelessly and out of the box to cut through a lengthy and bureaucratic state funding reimbursement process and shortened the fund flow time by at least half a year. Now we are expecting to have this fund in RT's account within 2 weeks, and we are in the process to ask board approval to restructure our revenue bonds as discussed above. So we would like to take advantage of this opportunity to thank these two outstanding professionals for going beyond and above and helping to address RT's long-term operating deficit and secure a sustainable financial future. Brent and Connie. The last talking point is I'm going to steal Mr. Chairman's thunder a little bit. I want to take a moment to convey my heartfelt appreciation to Chair Chenier for his extraordinary vision, strength, and leadership over the past 2 years as RT's chair. And 2 years ago, he assumed the role as chair of the RT board with the goal of revitalizing our agency, which provides the catalyst for our system-wide reform initiative in preparation for the Golden One Center opening. As you know, RT's role in the Golden One Center service was a great success. Over a year ago, Chair took a time to speak to nearly 1,000 RT employees, literally nearly 1,000 employees, when morale was at its lowest, to gain much needed insight to help improve RT's culture. It was this passion that led RT on the path to a quick turnaround and historical success. Thank you. And also, he was a leading force and integral part of finding new RT leadership when the previous general manager announced he was retiring. This opportunity allowed me to step up to serve this wonderful community in a greater capacity and be part of extraordinary transformation in RT's history. Specifically, in the last 11 months, Chair Chenier spent countless time and effort to guide and help me to build strong partnerships with many regional stakeholders and smoothly navigate through highly complicated and Sacramento unique political and social dynamics. Thank you so much, Chair Chenier, for your many years of dedicated service, unbelievable sacrifice, and firm commitment to make RT an inspirational public agency. And thank you wholeheartedly on behalf of the a little over 1,000 RT employees for your highly effective leadership to improve the mobility options in the entire Sacramento region. This concludes my GM report. Thank you.
So just one note, Brent and Connie, anytime you bring us a couple million or many millions of dollars, we'll give you some more plaques, okay? Just keep that.
Actually, Chair Moran, we now have Deborah and Mark Lonergan to do the rest of the district-wide performance update
okay.
within the general manager's report.
Very good.
I love it. We get applause before.
And Brent's coming up with a bag of money, I think, right? Yeah. So I want to highlight, last week there were two special services that are of note, and I want to spend a few minutes talking about them. The first one, well, actually, RT commits to a number of community events during the course of the year. And one of the big ones every year, and many of you are aware of our participation, is the Martin Luther King Jr. March. We participated again this year, and just to give you some idea of what we do, first of all, a number of us actually march in the event starting from Oak Park, and we have 2 buses assigned to follow the Oak Park March to help anyone that wants to participate but maybe can't walk the entire distance. And you can see us there in the picture on the left with the buses way in the back. Actually, we fill those buses during the course of the march usually, and it's everyone from, you know, people with maybe their older parents or folks that need to use the bus, to parents who just want to corral their kids about mid-March because they're getting a little out of hand. So all of that goes on in the buses. And for this year, the folks marching in North Sacramento didn't come downtown. They stayed in North Sacramento, and we had a bus following that march as well for the same purpose. After the march ends at the convention center, we start shuttles for the people that were in the march to get back to where they started, either Oak Park or Sacramento City College. We had over 5,000 people that we transported back following the march, using 10 buses and just a constant shuttle that went until the event was over, which is pretty significant in ridership. We also provided one-way tickets, rides, that were specific for that day. We provided 10,000 complimentary tickets for folks to use our system. Over the years, people have become kind of reliant on the shuttle buses, although the light rail system also had, of that 5,000, 1,500 or so people that took that back to City College. So it was a very successful day. It was a beautiful day. I know many of you marched. I saw you go by because we're at the back with the buses. So it was a very fun event. The other event that we weren't expecting quite such a success on was the Women's March on Saturday. That was an amazing event and very positive for us. And we were set up expecting a 10,000 person event, and it was 20,000 people according to the Sacramento Bee and police reports. And we had, with our normal service, a 10,000 person event would have been fine. We have 2-car trains running every half hour. Of course, everybody is coming down to start the march at a certain time, and then they all leave kind of spread out in the afternoon. We had packed trains for those first events. Then we got reports right away that the trains were packed, and so by the time the march was over, every train in our system was at least 3 cars, and some were 4. So we had huge capacity for people going back. And then a number of us were down there. Mr. Drake, James Drake in the back, was counting riders and helping passengers, and I was down for a time helping folks get oriented to our stations and just providing customer service. And what an upbeat crowd. I mean, this was a bunch of folks that were just they were there for a purpose. They were happy with what they were doing there. They were pleased with our service. They were grateful for the assistance. It was just a pleasure to work it, actually, and to see people and how they were using our system. I think that it's a huge indicator for us of the progress we're making in the community, that people would look to us first. I mean, we took over 12% of the folks coming down for this march. And if you think about it, the march started in Southside Park. We don't have a light rail station near Southside Park, so people had to walk from our system to get over there to start the march. So yeah, I think it's very positive for us, and we're very pleased, and we're happy that we could provide this service. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, Director Cerna?
Yeah, if I could, before Mark leaves the podium. When we get word that there's going to be an event like this, and I know, if I'm not mistaken, this event nationwide or worldwide was planned through social media, or was noticed at least through social media. Do we consider participating in terms of using some ad space in anticipation of crowds in excess of 10,000, for instance, to maybe just remind folks that this is an option for transportation during a large crowd gathering event in advance of the event?
So we do. What I didn't say about this event is, it's kind of been our experience in the past that so there are a number of events that happen on weekends downtown of some size, and we find on weekends that our mode split for those events, our share is kind of small, and so we'll kind of co-sponsor events. We'll do things and let folks know that transit is an option, but until our recent turnaround, I think people really weren't taking that option. Mm-hmm. And this is just such a strong indicator that the progress we made is being noticed, and people are actually considering us first over driving. And so to answer your question, we've been inconsistent. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. I think this is a big message for us that we need to participate more. I do have to say on this one, though, we were just overwhelmed by the numbers of people. It was twice the size of what was projected, and we're tied into the city's event planning, and we usually follow them and their lead in terms of what they're expecting in terms of crowd size and so forth. We actually had extra supervision on for the event to help the march and trains cohabitate a bit downtown. And all those folks ended up doing customer assistance too. So it was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Hey, Deborah.
Hello. Good evening, Chair Morin and members of the RT Board, and welcome Supervisor Kennedy. Tonight, I just want to present one of the big things that Mark kind of piggyback on, our partnerships, which is a huge initiative for RT. And during this month and over the holiday season, we were able to partner on some major community events. Mark just spoke about the MLK March and Diversity Expo, which we've been partnered over 15 years. And Henry briefly touched on our newest partnership with Shriners Hospital. And now I get to present partnership that we had with the Downtown Sacramento Partnership for the Downtown Sacramento Ice Rink. This is our second year that RT has partnered with the Downtown Sacramento Ice Rink, and part of our partnership, we received 2 activations, which you see up on the screen here, an 80s Day and a Princess Day. The Princess Day took place in November, and 80s Day took place just recently this month. As you can see, we had Rubik's Cube, they had a DJ playing 80s tunes, and yes, I'm sorry, I'm a product of the 80s, so my hair's not as quite as big as the 80s were, but I still love it. Princess Day had over 105 attendees over a 2-hour period, and 80s Night had 255 people attend over a 4-hour period. But event recognition is just half the battle. Building ridership is really key, and part of that ice rink promotion included a $2 off promotion for a session if you showed your valid RT ticket or pass, which is huge because that kind of brings people downtown to ride RT and show their pass and get a discount. And according to DSP staff, we had approximately 405 people take advantage of that over the season. And what they've told me is that was the largest promotion redemption of any discount they did over the season. We value all of our partnerships as they are a big part of our complete turnaround strategy. And this really speaks volumes to what Mark said about how it's just a different day. I mean, it's a complete turnaround. It shows that people view us as cleaner, safer, and more convenient, and they're taking us as evident for the Women's March, as Mark said. And it's so great to be part of that and really partner on really key projects and bring those people, whether it's downtown or Folsom or Rancho Cordova. We're really excited to be able to take people where they need to go. And with that, I will turn it over to Brent.
Thank you, Deborah. Good evening, Brent.
Good evening, Chair Moore and members of the board. So, Andy, you did say next time I bring you money, just come up and tell you about it. Well, we actually have, when you look at December results, and actually year to date, there's $2 million of extra money we have there.
Right.
So if you look at actually December, yeah, I think that's really good. December was really great. Revenues exceeded expenses by about $840,000. And then if you look at year to date, which is that column somewhere in the middle where it says actual, you'll see revenues exceeded expenses by $2 million, a little over $2 million. So these financial results have been really good. If you look at last year from a comparison standpoint, we're actually at a loss of about $37,000. So this is a big change here, which has been a great step. The other thing we look at is we look at revenue budget to actual, and when you look at it from a budget to actual standpoint, we're pretty much on target with revenues. We're about a little bit above budget. When you look at budget to actuals on the expense side, there's about a $500,000 improvement there. We're under budget, and that's mainly in the salaries and the services. What we've been doing is we've been doing a great job with our capital recovery, really staying on these project managers to make sure they're charging their time appropriately. We have monthly meetings and sometimes weekly meetings just to make sure people are charging their time. We're also looking at our benefit costs, and we're also looking at lower traction power costs, which has been a reason for that improvement. So on this next slide, what we look at here is just our fair revenues. And as you can see, when it comes to fair revenues, we're still above budget. But when you look at this year compared to last year, you'll see that that's an improvement of about 19%. And then when you look at it from a year-to-date perspective, which is the graph to the right, it's an improvement about 15% over the last 6 months compared to 6 months ago, or last year, 6 months. The next slide we look at is our fair recovery. How we're doing on that is we're at 22.7% for December, and year-to-date 22.2%. We're above our budget, and our target we're really trying to exceed is 23%, so we're really getting close. If you recall from last month, we exceeded that target of 23%, but right now we're at 22.2, which still is a great number. The last slide we're looking at here is our ridership. And this is an area where, we see that there is a need for improvement. Our ridership is a little bit down. Last month, when we looked at this from a ridership perspective, you can actually see there's actually one fewer weekday during this December as compared to last December. And as you know, a weekday, we actually gain more ridership than a weekend. So that explains a little bit of it. But the big thing that we're doing here is we really need to work on this ridership campaign. So what we're doing is we're going to start out slow. We're actually bringing on a temporary IT analyst to come in to look at our APCs on our buses, to analyze that data and look at the data integrity of our surveying, just to see that we can have good benchmarks. The next thing that we're going to look to do is look on the rail side. We don't have automatic passenger counts there, so we're going to look at different ways to use technology to improve our ridership tabulation on the rail side. And after that, we're going to eventually look at a ROI. I know Henry's been talking about that. previous board meetings, and that's that route optimization initiative. That's going to be something that's going to be started up in the next few months. So we have a lot of things going, and we're moving in that right direction on ridership. That's kind of the area where we still need some improvement, but financially we've actually done a great job of turning it around. And that concludes my presentation.
Thanks for the great news, Brent, and the great work. Okay, so is that it on all the general managers report items? I do have a request to speak on this, Jeffrey.
Andy, should we say general manager? My concern is both 65th Street, which again, right now, you have no, shall we say, time signals in there, so there is no way of knowing at 65th Street when the buses are coming. And also, electronically 9914, which is the designated light rail 65th bus stop, is not functioning. I believe part of the reason for that impact is the addition of some bus stops up around I want to say Botanto, where for dealing with the new, shall we say, senior housing that's going in there. And this has thrown, apparently, the system out of sync. But also, I've observed with both the, a number of, and I believe some of it's getting addressed with the new, for the new fare boxes, the new belts going in there, because when the, should we say, it gets wet, dollars don't go into the new fare boxes. So I have this last month, and also this last month, December, note that you do not generally have a great Los Rios ridership. So for buses, it's indeed a reason why you probably have less ridership. That should, this month, since Los Rios has already restarted, that should return to more riders. But I also say on the 26th bus route and on several others, the fare boxes didn't function. So please, as we get concerned, is this lost revenue. Fare boxes are still an issue, and I'm wondering how on several routes, how many of that is occurring. I just get to observe it in writing because I had to write up to the Social Security office and saw that on both directions, the 26th there, you could not put money on the buses. So if you had a pass, you could do it, but not cash.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Okay, with that, next item, Madam Clerk.
Item number 9, resolution commending Jay Chenier, presented by Chair Moran.
Okay, before that
Move approval of the resolution.
Okay.
Second.
The loudest of that, I believe, was Director Hume, and Director Budge seconded. So with that, I'll ask Jay to join me up at the podium there.
We didn't vote. Andy, do you want us all to vote on that?
I figured that one was large
Yeah,
enough.
we will. We're going to do that from here. So with that, motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, one opposed. Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. So with that, just a few brief comments before I get to some of the verbiage here and the commendation here. As Henry alluded to, and stealing some of the thunder here, this has been a very significant chairmanship of this board for 2 years, which is probably unique in its history, I would imagine. In 2014, then Chair Cerna initiated a lot of this system improvement momentum. Jay sees that momentum, and as we know, worked incredibly hard to bring so much of that to fruition. And I'll just finish by saying, Jay, This board thanks you, this agency and all of its employees thank you, but most of all, the ridership of this system thanks you. We get comments all the time now of improvements, and a lot of that was through your diligence and perseverance, and really making sure a lot of these efforts weren't just a bunch of talk, but really guided a lot of folks in getting a lot of great things done. So with that, this is commending Jay Chenier for his great service as the chair of this board for the past 2 years. Whereas Jay has faithfully represented the city of Sacramento on the Sacramento Regional Transit District Board of Directors from January 12th, 2012, or January 2012. Whereas Jay served as chair of the Sacramento Regional Transit District Board of Directors for 2015 and 2016. And there are a ton of whereases here as far as all these accomplishments that he's directed. Now, I won't read all of them, but a lot of them. Achieved the highest attended state-of-the-art tea breakfast with the Sacramento Metro Chamber, and that was probably last year. Again, as a lot of this momentum was really carrying the day. Opened the Blue Line to Cosumnes River College ahead of schedule and under budget. And Jay takes full and complete credit for all of this, I'm sure. As we know, Jay is the first one to say it's really a team effort, and he was steering it very effectively. Attained a collaborative agreement with the City of Elk Grove. Launched the pilot program for RT's mobile application for fare purchase and Ride Sac RT. Recruited RT's general manager and CEO, Henry. Implemented new shelter bus bench contract focused on enhanced cleaning and maintenance and refurbishment of all shelters. Created a temporary group event pass, round trip and discount round trip pass, and provided expanded light rail service from Golden One Center on special event nights, and we know that was a key effort this past year. Expanded fare enforcement to transit agents or with transit agents. Authorized up to 10 free ride days for Golden One Center events, and there are others in here. Whereas serving as chair for the board of directors of the Sacramento Regional Transit District, Jay Chenier demonstrated dedication and commitment to serve on behalf of the residents of Sacramento, encouraging full participation in the discussion of all issues in an expeditious manner. Whereas serving as chair, the board of directors, let's see, I already read that. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved as follows, that the board of directors does hereby express its appreciation and appreciation of the entire staff of the Sacramento Regional Transit District to Jay for his 2 years of service as chair of the board of directors, and looks forward to his continued service on this board. Please join me in a nice, thankful round of applause for Jay's service to everybody.
Thanks, Andy. I have a couple words I'd like to say. First of all, I want to thank Henry for his kind words as well. I think we all understand the importance of this organization and this organization being successful to the health of the region. There's no question about that. And we know that the organization was going in the wrong direction for a lot of reasons. And this was really a pickup for all of us. I appreciate this. There are many things on here that started way before me and finished without me, and did just fine. I was only one day out there laying track for the Blue Line. I think others did really well on that. So I'm humbled by this, but this goes way beyond me. It goes beyond the board, and I think it goes beyond really the community in understanding that we can't have the economic development we need. We can't get people to work and to home. We can't get young people to school without doing this right. And so I'm indebted to all of the staff, and I know that over the last 2 years, you all have picked it up an amazing level. This is not about what I did. This is about what the staff has done to make this work. When we go to games and it's raining, and we see Mark out there in his slicker directing people, or I drive by here and see Henry's car late at night or on the weekends, we know that these guys are working because they believe and they understand how important this was. So I really want to turn this back on to all of you. You have done the work. I'm going to take this home, but But my appreciation, and on behalf of the board, goes to you all for the tremendous amount of work. We have, and I also want to thank Phil, because he really did get it going. And the people that we met with in our ad hoc committees for 2 years, the business community, who kind of stayed with us and wants to keep going, they understand this as well. So I believe where we are is just the start. We have now laid a foundation, $1.824 million to the good for this year. We weren't seeing that 2 years ago. We were seeing it going very much in the other direction. So I want to say thank you for this, for me, but thank you to all of you for the community. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on. Next item, item number 10, motion, nomination, and election of a vice chair of the RT Board of Directors for this year.
Not it.
Okay, so as we'll recall, this was, we did not do this at our last board meeting, and that was to make sure we had the full board here sat. So I guess at this point, we'll just entertain nominations for vice chair of the Regional Transit Board.
So thank you, Chair Morin. It's really nice to be down at the end here. How quickly we just get shoved down, it's great. So I do want to make a nomination. I want to nominate Supervisor Patrick Kennedy, and for a number of reasons. You know, as we move forward, having kind of the outlying cities and the county involved in the leadership of this board is going to be critical to its long-term success. We can't do that without it. I've come to know Patrick pretty well over the last couple of years, and am impressed by his dedication to the job. I think that's important, and I know that he will put great effort and resources into doing this as well. Not to mention the fact that he's at least, a 3-day-a-week writer on this, and I think there's something to be said for that. So I think, Andy, that Patrick would be a great compliment to you as in the leadership of this organization and the leadership of the board. So I'd like to nominate Patrick Kennedy as vice president.
All right, we have a nomination and a second. I will ask everyone in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One opposed.
Who was that?
Director Harris.
Thank you.
And any abstentions? All right.
Does the vice chair
Yeah, I do, and I am quite surprised, I must say, but thank you very much. I appreciate the support.
What happens when you show up?
Not 100 votes. What? Motion passes at 91 votes.
That's
all right.
2-year term.
Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay, next item, please.
Next item, appointment of RT board members to various boards and commissions. For the appointment to the retirement board, that's a chair appointment. The rest of the appointments are done by motion and second of the entire board. So the first one is chair appointment to RT's retirement boards.
Okay, so I have served on this. How many years have I been? 5 years, Donna? 6. 6 this year. And I'm happy to continue in that, but at the same time, I'm really happy if someone else wants to take that on. So if and I'm happy to continue as an alternate if somebody else wants to step into that. But so any takers on? And I must say, over the course of the number of years I have been on that board, there has really been some exemplary streamlining of that whole process, a lot of cleanup. And, thanks to the folks on our staff, but also the union membership on that board has been pivotal in that. So it has gotten easier. I think Don Natoli remembers the days when it was separate boards and the meetings could go. Yeah. So it really has been condensed, consolidated. I don't know if that impassioned plea has generated any interest in serving on that. But again, is there anybody interested in taking on that position? And hearing none, I'm happy to continue in that role then. So that'll be happy to do that.
So we'll stay with General Manager Lead, Chair Moran, and Director Jennings as the alternate.
That works. And do we need a vote on that then?
We do not. That's
okay.
a chair appointment.
All right. That's just dictated by a dictator, right? Okay. So with that, so we'll move on to so the next. You want to just
Yes.
read that out?
Item
Clerk?
B is a motion and a second by the board members, appointments to the Capital Corridor Joint Powers Authority, and currently Directors Cerna and Miller serve, and Directors Hanson and Harris are alternates.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Director Cerna.
If he's willing to accept the nomination, I'd like to nominate Director Harris to serve as a principal member.
All right. So Director Harris has been nominated. Do we need a second on these nominations?
Yes.
A second.
So seconded by Director Hume. And then Director Miller, are you still interested in continuing to serve on that?
I'll nominate Director Miller.
I'll second. Okay, seconded by Director Harris, so nominated by Director Hume. Yeah. Can we vote on both these nominations seconds together?
We just put them together and don't.
If you want to put them together and vote on it that way,
I move to
yes.
put them together as one motion.
Wow. That's right. So good point. So alternates on that are, so Director Hanson, and then I believe Director Harris was an alternate.
That is correct.
So do we need another alternate now, or can?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I will step up for.
Okay, yep.
I'll nominate Director Jennings to be
Director
an alternate.
Jennings,
Second.
okay.
And Hanson.
The only thing I might want to point out to you is the Capital Corridor Joint Powers Authority and the Retirement Board hold their meetings at the exact same times on the exact same days. So there is a potential for a conflict.
Appreciate you pointing that out, but since Director Jennings is an alternate on both, and I promise to show up at the Retirement Board if he needs to be at the other one, so.
That's fine. I just wanted to
Okay,
make you aware.
but thanks for pointing that out, because I don't think any of us would have seen that conflict. So, has all that been appropriately captured? Okay, so all those in favor of all those motions and seconded, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay,
Motion passes at 100 votes.
all right.
All right. Next one is item C, appointments to the Sacramento, Placerville Transportation Corridor Joint Powers Authority. And currently Director Budge sits on that, and Director Natoli is the alternate. Where's the Willie?
I'd like to move that we maintain the leadership of that board as is.
Second?
Okay, that motion by Director Cerna and seconded by Director Kennedy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes.
All right.
Next, item D, appointments to the Paratransit Inc. Board of Directors, and currently Directors Hume and Natoli sit on that board.
Okay, in this one, I know Director Hanson expressed an interest to me of sitting on this board possibly if there was any interest in any movement on that, but I think Director Hume, you've been on that for a while and are.
Fine, too. This is not just one meeting a quarter, I can assure
Okay.
you. It's been a number of meetings and.
Okay, so you're good, and Don, you're good?
Yeah, I'm fine if Director Hanson wants to serve.
Oh, okay, so,
I'd like to nominate Hanson and Hume.
okay, Hanson and Hume.
Do I have to accept?
Yes.
Well, and Hume didn't even have a chance here.
Yeah, let's see
He's
what Patrick,
still on.
Pat's the longest term, so.
Okay, so on this, do we have alternates?
No, we do not.
No, we don't.
Okay, all right, so who made that motion?
I did.
And was that seconded by Director Miller? Okay.
Left side of the table.
Left side's carrying the, all right. Okay, so with that motion on the floor, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes. E, motion, appointments to the Downtown Riverfront Streetcar Policy Steering Committee. And currently, Director Harris serves as primary member and Director Budge is alternate.
Okay, so, so. So,
Mr. Chair?
yeah.
I'd like to nominate the members as is.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so, so with that motion and that second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes. Item F, motion, appointments to the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, and currently Director Hume sits as primary and Director Natoli is alternate.
Okay, any need to change that? Any, you're all good?
I would just say that I know Director Hume is very good about going. I'm not much of an alternate because I always have a conflict. I think it's on Fridays oftentimes. So I don't know, Pat, if there's someone on the board who could back you up because you're very good about attending.
I'm willing to continue serving as the primary and potentially in line for one of the vice chair positions.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. So I'll stay as alternate. I just know that there's been a couple times when they meet typically out of the area, so it's been a little difficult to.
All right, so I'll go ahead and move that there's no change to the existing membership there.
Second.
Okay, moved, seconded, was that Director Sterner? Okay, with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Motion passes at 100 votes. Thank you very much. Item number 12, resolution authorizing the prepayment of a portion of the Sacramento Regional Transit District Farebox Revenue Bonds, Series 2012, execute and delivery of an escrow agreement and certain related matters, presented by Brent Bernicker.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Brent, before you get started, my apologies. I did have a request to speak on this, so so whatever you have to say, Mike, is going to have zero impact here. But please share your thoughts.
Yes, actually, we want to come up to add something to the item, and it's been customary practice of the Regional Transit District at this meeting in January to also appoint board members to the Central Valley Rail Working Group. So this body meets also with the staff of the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. They are receiving many mentions in the agenda on Friday at the meeting in Stockton that starts at 12:30 in the afternoon. And the focus of the Central Valley Rail Working Group of late has been the morning express service to Sacramento. Just to set the record straight, two groups report to the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. So there's the Central Valley Rail Working Group, and then there's the San Joaquin Valley Rail Committee. The San Joaquin Valley Rail Committee has had a complete overhaul and change of its bylaws in most recent years. They now are solely a citizen-based membership. Citizens on that committee can be former elected officials, but their new bylaws say that the San Joaquin Valley Rail Committee cannot be current elected officials. So since you don't have to appoint for that group, which Sacramento County is well represented with Matt Carpenter of the Sacramento Area Council of Governments and former RT board member, Capitol Corridor member, and San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority Vice Chair Steve Cohn is also on the San Joaquin Valley Rail Committee. So the only thing in here is to look at and see if you have direction from legal or from the dais over here to appoint members to the Central Valley Rail Working Group for calendar year 2017. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike, and sorry for missing your request to speak.
Chair, I'll make this very easy for you. I've been jumping on that grenade and going on an as-needed basis when notified by SJJPA staff.
Very good, very good. So we'll continue. Thanks for that, Patrick. Okay, so with that, then, the item has been read and Brent's ready to present. So.
Sure. So actually, a lot of this Henry's already covered and did a great job. So I'm going to repeat a little bit of what he said, but I'll start with a little bit of history on the.
So we do have a motion to approve on the floor by Director Hansen.
Second.
You want to just do it? Yep. Okay, sounds good.
Seconded by Director Hume. Jake, Director Senior.
Want to go first? No, I just, this is good cash management. I mean, this is good financial planning for us. It's going to save us money in the long run. It's going to help our year-to-year balance sheet. So I just think this is a really good idea, and this is what we should be doing more of. So thank you for the work on it, and I'm very much in favor of it.
Very good. Thanks, Jake. Any other director comments before I call?
I wasn't going to support it until the compelling staff reports.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. So with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, we do have a speaker. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, Jeffrey, this is my new pattern here where I bring the speakers up after we've decided. My apologies, Jeffrey.
No, Board. Hey, I mean, that has previously happened in the past, and we'll see what goes on in the future. But no, what I just wanted to bring is this indeed, the attention through there that it's not that public knowledge of what you're talking about from maybe with 60-some million to 39 million, the change in there that's in your documents, but that's not revealed that much to the public to see that and realize with the significance and the importance of what you're doing there. And I do commend you for doing all of those things and understanding that. But I also point out to you hey, the more you make public knowledge, the more you're going to have your riders supporting you in what you're doing, not when there's some other things that they don't understand. So again, I just offer that as it's good work, and there's showing a significant change there that's very important, and often it isn't something that's going to be read.
Great. Thanks, Jeffrey, and I apologize for missing your request to speak there. Next item, please.
Item number 13, Downtown Riverfront Streetcar Design Services. And in front of you are two resolutions. First, approving the First Amendment to the contract for Downtown Riverfront Streetcar Design Services with HDR Inc. to add optional tasks 2, 3, and 4. And a second resolution delegating authority to the General Manager CEO to sign an interagency agreement to secure funding for optional tasks 2, 3, and 4. And before you is Ed Schofield.
Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Chair Moore.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to acknowledge we have a guest here from SACOG, our interim CEO, Executive Director, Mr. Kirk Trust here. Just wanted to say hello.
Chair Moore and members of the board, Cindy just read the item before you tonight, so I have a quick PowerPoint presentation I'll get through, and then I'll field questions at that point or comment from the public. First of all, just a quick background on the project. It's owned by the cities of Sacramento and West Sacramento. It's a 5.2-mile alignment that'll provide streetcar service between West Sacramento City Hall and Midtown Sacramento. The current schedule shows that it'll be up and running in 2021. For operations, the cities will be responsible for the costs related to the operations and maintenance of the project. It's anticipated that the cities will contract with RT to provide the day-to-day operations and maintenance. The city of Sacramento is in the process of setting up a special finance district to help fund their portion of the operations and maintenance costs, and the city of West Sacramento has already secured their portion of the costs. For the governance, the project is, as I mentioned, is jointly owned by the cities of Sacramento and West Sacramento. The governance of this project will include the formation of the Downtown Riverfront Streetcar Inc., which is a nonprofit organization that will be set up to manage the day-to-day operations of the streetcar system. There are a number of agreements that we are working on right now to to establish the terms and conditions in which the project will be operated and maintained. And at this point, I just look over to Tim and see if he wants to add anything to the governance discussion.
Well, just to that last point, what we're working on now, RT has 4 different roles in the project, and the first is as a state and federal grantee. So RT being the conduit through which the FTA Small Starts grant money flows, as well as money that flows from the state Prop 1A funds, which will be on the board agenda in coming weeks here for the board's approval. As a result of that, we need a subrecipient agreement that will be between RT and the JPA, which will allow those funds to flow through RT to the JPA, made up of the city of Sacramento and city of West Sacramento as partners in the project. We also have a role, RT has a role as property owner. The streetcar is proposed to share about a mile of track with RT, and so there will need to be a shared track agreement. That's part of the governance as well. RT is being tapped for its experience and expertise in light rail systems to contract with the JPA to perform design, construction, and procurement services management. So RT will be involved in hiring the contractors that build the project, that procure the vehicles, and the design phase, which is already underway. And then the final agreement would be an agreement between RT and Streetcar Inc. That would be the nonprofit. Again, RT being tapped for its expertise to maintain and operate the system under a contract with the nonprofit. I've looked at as many of these streetcar governance structures as I can get my hands on, and no 2 are alike. They do seem to have a lot of moving parts, but our goal, and certainly with Kirk's good guidance, we're going to make sure that ours is the best. And that's all I need to add.
Director Hanson?
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add that there's a whole streetcar policy committee that has been working with SACOG, and we have appointees from RT, from the 2 cities, and other entities, and they've been working through all these questions. So, Tim, that agreement that you're talking about for governance is really a product of the negotiation between the cities and the other partners. So, it's a good thing that we've gotten to this point. Anyway, since I have the floor first, I'll just make a motion to approve the contract, but you can finish your.
Well,
yeah. Yeah. People may have questions.
Okay.
No,
Do you want me to? Okay.
Request to speak as well.
Okay, I'll wrap it up quickly. Just for the design background, the contract was set up for 4 individual tasks. Last April, the board approved task 1, and we're coming before you tonight in the hopes of seeking approval for task 2, 3, and 4 for a combined total of just over $5.4 million. We need a total of about $6 million. There's $545,000 that's included in that for project management and for services costs. Funding for these 2 tasks will be provided by the cities. Both councils, West Sacramento and Sacramento, have already approved the funding, and the interagency agreement has already been signed by both cities. So at this point, with the board's approval, RT would just be the last agency to sign, and it would be executed. So at this point, staff has 2 recommendations. The first is to amend the contract with the Downtown Riverfront Streetcar Design contract with HDR to include optional tasks 2, 3, and 4, and the second part being to delegate authority to the general manager CEO to sign the interagency agreement to secure funding for tasks 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, thanks, Ed. So I'm sure we have some questions for you from directors. I do have a number of requests to speak from the floor, so we'll take those first. But before we even get to that, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. Can we move both those items together? Okay, and was that the intent of the motion? Okay, very good. Okay, so with that, I have 3 requests to speak on this item from the public. So we'll start with Russell. Russell Rawlings. So if we could give Russell some assistance to get to the microphone here. Russell needs some assistance here. Then after Russell will be James Cathert, and after James is Kirk Trost, and we might have another request coming our way here. Good evening again, Russell.
Good evening, board. My name is Russell Rawlings. I'm a resident of Oak Park. I am a transit-dependent user. This is complicated. This is tough for me to be here. I moved to Sacramento because there is transit here and because I am able to get around. And I was I think I was call myself a Measure B hipster. I was on board with Measure B before it was cool. And the original Measure B. But I've done a lot of digging deep and looking at longer term outcomes, you know, and I think that the board has done a lot of that. I know that Director Chenier has guided the agency through some very tough financial decisions, and it looks like a lot of these things are turning around, which is great news, because that affords the board an opportunity to reshape and re-envision a transportation agency that will work for new citizens to our area that are excited to use it. I think, you know, it's kind of interesting. I think that a great narrative could be put together from all of the comments that were given this evening and everything that's happened here. It's sad that there's not more people here to experience it. But my concern is that as we continue to move forward with streetcar, we're going to be cutting out people. We're going to be back here and we're going to be just talking about cutting bus route lines because the Measure B that was the funding didn't come through for us. And then we're going to be talking about the city of Sacramento even needing to have a vote to ensure that streetcar happens. What happens with this $3 million then if that fails? Are we just being irresponsible by letting money pass through? I mean, we had this discussion back in April and it just moved forward, kicking the can down the road. You know, this is not magic money. You know, that $500,000 could be spent on ROI and re-envisioning the system and making sure that the whole community can participate. I know that the leadership has changed, and I think that maybe we can get some new ideas, maybe something that's not just downtown centric, not just focused on moving people around a very tight 10-block area.
Could I ask
You know,
a question, just
so-
to clarify, if I can?
Please.
So the 500,000 is actually a fee to RT. That's part of the money coming from the cities to do this.
Oh, okay. I
So,
apologize.
Yeah, no, it's no problem.
I apologize. But monies are going to be, RT will be spending money to participate in this project. It's not going to be zero money spent from RT. Staff time and all these things cost money. So, you know.
I just want to say, those are reimbursed. That's what the 534,000 is for, is staff time and reimbursement costs for us, for
Right.
RT from the cities.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean.
And I do know that West Sac has worked very hard
Right.
to get their part down, and I appreciate that. I just think that it's important that maybe we do the re-envisioning first, then see how streetcar plays into that, rather than doing streetcar first, then finding out how to patch together a system that works. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Russell. James, and after James is Kirk Trost, and after Kirk is Felix Huerta.
Greetings, Chairman Moran and the Board of Directors. I'm Jim Cathcart, representing Sacramento Taxpayers Advocates and Riders, known as STAR. STAR has concern about the streetcar project that must be addressed with transparency before STAR can support a request for expenditures for design. Therefore, STAR opposes the recommendation action on agenda item 13. Number one, there must be a formal agreement. STAR asks this before additional funds are committed to design the streetcar system. The following actions be completed. One, there must be a formal agreement of the project partners to a government structure, including responsibilities of each party for design, construction, operations, and maintenance of the streetcar project. Documentation on the structure must be made available to the public. The SAC RT document suggests that will be completed in March of 2017. Two, an analysis of the impact of moving light rail from K Street Mall to H Street on ridership and equity issues as described in Title VI must be done, including input from light rail users and the public. This analysis must be completed and shared with the public. Three, Identification of the source of revenues for the City of Sacramento share of streetcar costs, including operations and maintenance, must be completed. Staff indicates the formation of a financial district to generate these revenues will be brought before a vote in May of 2017. 4, a large portion of funding for the streetcar relies on Federal Transportation Agency funding small starts, which recommendations will not be released until April 2017. And as you know, we're going to have a new Director of Transportation, and as you know, we have new leadership in transportation committees in the House of Representatives. Any decision on additional streetcar design work should await the completion of these actions. And I must also remind you that there was a Measure B that the majority of people did not oppose when they voted in the special district, opposed, 51% opposed, where there was a 2/3 requirement vote for funding it by the property owners. 51% said no, 49% said yes. So there is a widespread community disinterest in thinking this is not a good way to spend our money. Thank you.
All right, thanks, James. So Kirk, and after Kirk again is Felix Huerta.
Yeah, Chair Moore and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you tonight. I'm really here to answer any questions you might have about the project, but I will say a couple of things. First, I want to extend our thanks on behalf of SACOG and the two cities, the sponsors of this project, to Henry, his team, Neil and Ed and Tim, who've been great partners for the cities and for SACOG on this project. They're helping build the project on behalf of the cities that will serve the core. And I do want to say something about that this is a regional project. It is a regional priority and has been for over 5 years. And the reason is that, particularly for you board members, many of you who serve on the SACOG board, every project that we build that's a regional priority doesn't touch every part of the region. But having a healthy core and a core that sustains the kind of housing we need in the core and the kind of economic development we need in the urban core allows us to do lots of other things outside the core. It's that kind of balance that the blueprint was based on, having housing choice and transportation choice throughout the region. So having the densities and having the transit service we need in the core allows us to provide the kind of transit and provide the kind of housing choice we need outside the core. And the final thing I'll say about this is that this is an extraordinary project. This is a project that's breaking the mold of 30 years of, 3 decades of history in this region, where regional transit has proposed projects, has gone out and found the capital funding for projects and tried to find ways to fund the operations and maintenance for projects. We're doing something different here in an extraordinary partnership with the two cities and with the business community as well, that they're going out and they're helping to find the capital money to build a transit project. They're going out and finding the money to fund the operation and maintenance and asking for regional transit to be our partner in doing that. This is precisely the kind of project that is going to be attractive to a new administration in Washington. And our representatives with the Federal Transit Administration have told us just that. It's these kinds of innovative partnerships, investing with the private sector in a project like this, that is going to make us be successful in getting the kind of federal funding we need for this project. Thank you for your time. I hope you'll vote in favor of this project.
Great, thanks for coming out, Kirk. And
Just a
yeah,
question for Kirk. Kirk, I'm just curious, though, this comes to us this evening, and obviously there are a number of things that have to be in place in order to, obviously funding has to be secured. But I guess I'm curious, the agreements here this evening, RT, and the governance structure is going to follow on. Would it not make sense, again, recognizing both the cities have made their commitment, that to have that governance structure in place before our board were to act on this? I guess I want to know, and again, I know you're immersed in the details. I'm curious, though, as to why that's here before us this evening, before that governance structure has been decided.
No, Director Natoli, I appreciate the question. What I'd like to say is there is a governance structure in place for this project. This project is been at SACOG, with SACOG as the project manager for, I don't know, almost 5 years now. We have a memorandum of understanding between the two cities, SACOG and Regional Transit. We have a policy steering committee that meets in public to give direction to the project. We've been contracting to advance the project. We're doing the work we need to do in order to put ourselves in the position to potentially get $100 million from the federal government. What we're doing on the governance side is setting up the permanent structure that will actually help us construct and operate and maintain the project over the course of, for the life of the project. But we have a structure in place now to continue to advance the project and to sign contracts like this. It's just not necessary that we have that final structure in place now. And the one thing that I will tell you is, in some sense, that's putting the cart before the horse, because that structure includes the formation of a nonprofit. And that nonprofit will not be formed and will not have the power to operate and maintain the streetcar unless the private community, the private sector, invests in the streetcar. So we're not going to finalize these documents actually until that happens, and that won't happen until May or June of this year.
So then there won't be a governance structure in March. That maybe, what a permanent governance structure won't be in place until after it's decided by the folks that are going to be voting on it from the city side, whether they are in or not financially.
Our plan is to come to each one of the agencies and ask for approval in March to go ahead and go forward with the formation of the JPA and the formation of the nonprofit, but that will be dependent upon an act subsequent, which is the formation of the Community Facilities Financing District.
Okay, that wasn't real clear in this report as to what that, and maybe that was understood by everybody else. I didn't get that from the staff report, that was the kind of rank order of how you're going to do things. Thank
Director Hansen.
Director Natola, I just wanted to address that. I think when this came to us last year, we had the choice to fund all these tasks, and the board, I think, because it wanted to see what was going on, even though this project is being funded by the cities and the cities own it, we're just helping the cities through taking their money and accomplishing the tasks. We decided not to approve all the 4 tasks. And so now tonight, the project being owned by the cities, we're being asked to do these additional tasks being paid for by the cities. But the governance structure has been negotiated between the 2 cities. And as Kirk said, I don't think quite as clearly, the 2 cities will have to formalize that governance structure, but I don't believe that governance structure is approved by this board, unless I'm incorrect about that. I think that this board will choose whether or not to apply for a contract, and we'll be working with the FTA, but as far as I know, the governance structure really is being determined by.
Yeah, I didn't understand that we were going to have approval. I just was curious of how things are coming to us in a certain order. I know we put it over last year because we wanted to do that.
It's kind of a horse designed by committee.
If I can make a friendly amendment to that, Director Hansen, there is a role in that the 2 cities are going to come to you and say, we want you to be our partner, we want you to operate this thing, and we want you to say yes. So there is in the nature of an operations agreement that will come before you.
Great.
That's a contract.
Thanks, Kirk.
I'm sorry. I'll wait till after all the speakers.
Okay.
Thank you.
So last speaker on this is Felix.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Felix Wirth. I live in the city, and I am concerned about the operation portion of this, the financing, the planning, the development, design. They either need to be city employees for the city of Sacramento, city of West Sacramento, or RT for the operations and the maintenance of this. If you create a third-party JPA, they're not city employees or they're not county employees, they're private sector employees. And I want to make sure that these are public sector employees that are covered by a public sector law for representation and organizing. Thank you.
Thanks, Felix. Okay, so that's the last request I have to speak on this item. So comments, questions from directors? Okay, so there's a motion, a second on the floor. Director Hume.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate Mr. Rawlings' points because they were points that I shared before I really read the staff report and had a discussion with Mr. Trost, and came to the realization that the cities of Sacramento and West Sacramento are funding this, and not only are they soliciting RT's expertise, but then reimbursing RT for the staff time to do that. That's the way this should happen going forward on an operational basis, is should RT operate this, in which case it would be RT employees running this line, that should be cost neutral to this organization. It should be borne by whatever JPA is in place or whatever funding comes from the cities. Now, obviously, for the capital improvements, there will be competition for those funds, and even though this will be a City of Sacramento, City of West Sacramento joint project, that will be a diversion of capital monies that could go to other projects. But as Mr. Trost said, certain projects, I think, even though they benefit a small geographical space, they, from the image of people who are wanting that next level of transit services, they do serve a greater need. So I will continue to keep a wary eye on this, that it is cost neutral to this agency, but I do support moving forward at this time.
Thanks. Director Chenier.
Thank you. A couple things. One is actually I don't think it'll be cost neutral. I think it'll be cost positive to this agency. If we
Even
do
better.
this right. So I want
As long as Brent's in charge, it will be.
want to see it up on that monthly on the positive side. So a couple things, Mr. Huerta, is that correct? So I agree, and I think the assumption by everyone on this is that RT will operate this, and it will be RT employees that do it. I think this agency and this organization, as I said before, is doing a wonderful job. We're looking at bringing things in-house as we go forward. We've done some of that. We'll continue to do more of that. It's a long-term stability of the employees and the stabilization of the organization itself, and so I think that's the direction we're going. That's my commitment, at least, in doing this. The other piece is, this is a pretty complicated issue. We have lots of moving pieces and lots of moving organizations. I do want to thank Mr. Trost and SACOG for really taking this on and kind of shepherding all of us through this. It has not been easy at times. It's been very difficult. We've had a lot of people kind of turn over in this, and so a lot of re-education has had to happen. I think we're in probably, and Mr. Hansen has stuck with us as much as anyone over the years and spent as much time as anyone over the years. I think we're probably in the best situation that we've been in since this project started. We do have $75 million in the federal budget. Hopefully that will stay. Certainly if that goes away, we don't have a project. But I'm confident that it will stay, and hopefully we'll get up to $100 million, which is the new limit that you can apply for. I know the business community was, the specific business community that will be impacted, who will be paying the freight on a lot of this, has been very positive about this. A number of those folks went up to Portland last year to look at the streetcar up there and came back saying this is something we can do around our economic development. This is a good thing for the two cities in working together. That's been difficult at times, but overall I think both cities really want to make this happen, and the county as well. So I'm excited about this project and looking forward to voting yes and moving forward. And we have a lot of work to do. I don't think we can kid ourselves about that. And there will be challenges, and there will be challenges having two cities and multiple organizations do this. But I think it's something we can do because it's good for us. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm sensing this could just be done with a voice vote, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Motion carries at 100 votes.
Excellent. Is that anything left for us, Cindy?
Actually, we are going to cancel the closed session
Okay.
that is listed in your packages.
Okay.
We have nothing to report. So yes, unless any other board members have any
Well,
comments.
I just need to remind everybody, there's a note here that Steve Hansen needs to leave at 7:30, so Steve, you need to stay here till 7. Everybody else, we're adjourned.